Building URLs dynamically in Flask. When developing web applications with Flask, you often need to create URLs dynamically. Flask provides an intuitive and flexible way to build URLs that helps keep your code maintainable and your application scalable. This tutorial will walk you through the key concepts of dynamic URL building in Flask, so you can make the most of this powerful feature. What is URL building? URL building is the process of generating URLs in a Flask application based on specific endpoint names and their corresponding parameters. Instead of hardcoding URLs, Flask allows you to generate them dynamically using the URL_for function. This approach ensures that your URLs are consistent across the application, even when the routes or parameters change. Why use dynamic URL building? Dynamic URL building offers several advantages. Consistency. If you change the structure of your routes, you only need to update the route definitions and the rest of your URLs will automatically update. Maintainability. It reduces the chances of errors due to hard-coded URLs and makes your application easier to manage. Flexibility. It allows for more dynamic interactions, such as passing variables in URLs to create personalized user experiences. The URL_for function. The URL_for function is central to dynamic URL building in Flask. It generates a URL to a specific endpoint with the method you specify. This function requires the name of the endpoint and can take additional arguments to fill in dynamic parts of the URL. Example. Imagine you have a view function that displays a user's profile. The URL might look something like this, /user/username. To build this URL dynamically, you would use URL_for, using URL building for redirection. Another powerful use case for dynamic URL building is redirection. Instead of redirecting to a hard-coded URL, you can use URL_for to generate the target URL, making your redirects more robust and adaptable to changes. Passing query parameters. The URL_for function also allows you to pass query parameters to your URLs. This is useful when you need to send additional data in the URL, such as search queries or filters. Best practices for URL building in Flask. Use named endpoints. Always use named endpoints in your URL_for calls to ensure clarity and maintainability. Avoid hard-coding URLs. Rely on URL_for to generate URLs dynamically instead of hard-coding them. Consistent naming. Use consistent and descriptive names for your view functions and endpoints to make your code more readable and maintainable. Handle optional parameters. Make sure to handle optional parameters in your URLs gracefully, using default values where necessary. Conclusion: dynamic URL building is a fundamental feature in Flask that enhances the flexibility, maintainability, and scalability of your web applications. By leveraging the URL_for function, you can ensure that your URLs remain consistent and your application stays robust as it evolves. Whether you're linking to different parts of your site, redirecting users, or passing query parameters, dynamic URL building in Flask helps you manage these tasks with ease and efficiency.